the day you graduate high school, if you've passed this class, you're eligible to go take your tradesman exam. Basically starts you out at about $55,000 a year.
So is tradesman different than journeyman?
You can get your tradesman license in 2 years.
Okay.
It's strictly 1 and 2 family dwellings.
That's kind of
either a house or a duplex.
Yeah. We've got a wiring.
Yeah. Right. They're getting ready to teach that in high schools, electrical and HVAC. Almost the same type deal, if I'm not mistaken. After your sophomore, junior, and senior year of learning wiring, learning how to wire a house, whatever is involved in that, after they graduate, they can go take that test and get their, I guess, wiring license.
Yeah.
Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks.
You know, if you were any smarter growing up, you'd have been a plumber, right?
I don't know about that.
Why electrical?
Man, I started when I was 18 years old. A couple of buddies of mine were doing it. Decided that I wanted to go kind of work with them, hang out with them. And it just kind of one thing led to another, and enjoyed the end result and building, working with my hands, getting to see the finished product at the end of the day. So that's kind of what led me that direction.
Since your buddies were in electrical, you're like, I'll go do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
So was it easy for them to get you a job, I guess?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, at the time it was super busy, got on with them, worked with them for a year, and then kind of went off on my, not on my own, but went to another couple of different companies, and I was a little more serious about my career than they were. So
are they still in electrical?
No, sir.
No. What do they do now?
One of them actually works for Encore Wire.
Okay.
In the warehouse, basically just cutting wire, sending it out to distributors. The other one, I honestly don't know. I don't talk to them anymore, but yeah, they stayed with it for probably a year and got out, and I just kind of stuck with it.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So 18. And had you stayed in it the entire time, or have you ever got out and tried other things, or what?
I did get out. So I did it from 18 to 20. And then I had a buddy of mine start a erosion environmental sediment control company. So I went on with him. I was like, me and one of my buddies were his first 2 guys. Did that for several years. And then the economy kind of crashed. Went back to doing electrical work when I was probably 26, 27. And just kind of started back off at the bottom. Worked for a large commercial electrical contractor here in Dallas. And I mean, just worked my butt off really.
So you've done residential and commercial.
I came up all commercial. So I learned the residential side, just going out, doing side work, making side money, which every electrician has to do to make ends meet. So, yeah. And then, I stayed with that company for 10 years, and then just slowly built up work on the side to eventually do my own thing.
At one point you get so busy on the side, you're like, man, I'm making as much money here part-time as I am over here full-time.
Yeah. So I'd work 40 hours a week, making $26, $27 an hour, had a fuel card, truck allowance, was running, $500,000 to $1 million commercial projects. And I could go out on Saturday and do a panel change or something like that and make the same amount of money in a day that I make in 40 hours. So yeah, it was
crazy.
It was eye-opening for sure.
But I mean, to be honest, and that's what you really need to do. One thing that I used to tell plumbers when I bring in, whatever you make a week, you need to do that every day.
Yes.
Because literally you need your people, your revenue generating people, to generate whatever they make in a week, they should be generating that every day, because 20% should be your labor.
Oh,
and then that's him, or 20% should really be your field labor.
Yep.
So what he does a week, if he makes $3,000 a week, he needs to be selling $3,000 a day in order to make a company profitable.
Yeah.
To make it a good running, smooth company.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't get that. So yeah, it's funny that you're like, well, I can go out one day and make what I'm making in a week. Man, you're doing it right.
Yeah.
And if you can do that 5 days in a row, man, you can run a great company.
Oh yeah.
It really is this good. And it's funny though, a lot of people don't even realize that what the numbers are. They're like, man, I work for myself. And the first time I opened my own company, it was scary. As soon as I'd make a couple $100 in a day, I'm like, shoot, man, I'm good. take off the rest of the day, go have a drink, go to the restaurant. Well, it is.
You're good.
You go to the golf course, and it's like, man, I'm good.
Yep.
And it's like, man, if I'd have been smarter, younger, I could have made some good money.
Yeah. Same here. Same.
It's kind of crazy. So what was it that you loved about electrical?
Man, I wasn't a big school guy, graduated high school, made decent grades, had planned on, going to community college. I'm going to be the guy that takes a semester off, goes back, take a little break, and never went back. So I ended up going to work straight out of high school. The electrical trade is just something that's always going to be there. There's always going to be a need for it. So that was a good career choice for me, just knowing that the job security is always there.
And you've got your own company now?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a hard time finding people?
I do. It's harder for smaller companies to compete with larger companies as far as benefits, health insurance, 401k and stuff like that. I do have a lot of connections with other companies that I've worked for or guys I've worked for. So I've got a lot of people to choose from, but you've got to really pay them a lot of money, have some good benefits and stuff like that to get good guys on your side. So
whenever I started joining and learning from best practice groups, they tell you when you put your pricing together, put that pricing together based on what it would cost you to have the best employee. If you're paying your top guy $50 an hour and there's training and there's insurance, or you need to put that whole package together and say, look, here's how much it costs me for this guy for an hour. Yep. And then you build out your whole price structure on that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can afford to incentivize these others that aren't your best people and say, look, I want you to move up to be the best, but here's what you've got to do. Here's what you got to learn. Here's what your numbers need to be, and coach them. But now you can afford to pay them to be the best.
Right.
And man, it's such a good thing to learn. So many companies these days start and they're like, man, I'm just going to be the cheapest plumbing company around.
Yep.
Everybody's going to call me.
Yep.
And then you get busy at the cheapest plumbing company in town. You ain't making no money.
Right. You're just breaking even and kind of cruising along. And at the end of the day, you're like, damn.
Yeah. So, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because you're like, man, I'm working harder than I've ever worked.
Yeah.
And I'm not making as near as much money as I thought. And I tell people, look, try to be the best in town, not the cheapest.
Exactly.
At the best, you're going to bring more value. You're going to charge more. You can literally do half the amount of work if you're charging properly, not the cheapest. Do half the amount of work and make the same money. It's like
same profit. Yeah,
man.
I've been in both. Yeah, I've been in both. When we first started the business, I went after every single job I could get.
Everybody's your customer.
Exactly.
If you flip a light switch, you're my customer.
Yeah. So it made it harder on me trying to get all this work done and keep everybody happy when, reality, everybody's not going to be happy. Whatever's going to be the most profitable is what you need to stick with and find your niche.
So take just a minute, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So my name's Chris Lamm. I own NTX Electric. We are right now we've got 13 guys. We do commercial, residential. We're located here in Wylie, just a small business. Been in business for 10 years. My son just graduated high school, came straight to work for me. But yeah, that's really it, man. I've always had a dream of owning my own, business, and just happened to be in the electrical trade.
So has your son done electrical before then?
He's helped me out in the summers. Yeah. So had summers off from school. Didn't help a whole lot because he had baseball, but he's helped me on some bigger jobs, and he enjoys it. Just working with his hand. He's kind of like me. So working with his hands, good work ethic for his age, and yeah, he gets after it.
You say good work ethic, and I love that. When you hire people these days, and I don't mean everybody, but do most people come in with a really good work ethic, or do most people just come in like they're just looking for a job, they're just looking for a check?
I would say the majority come in just looking for a check. You can tell pretty quick when a guy gets on a job, if he's a go-getter, if he's going to get out there and bust his butt, if he's going to stand around and wait on you to tell him to do something, or if he's going to jump in there and take a shovel out of your hand, or take hey, let me do that. Let me learn that.
You bet.
So yeah, I would say the majority are just kind of wanting the check. There's others that you can tell want to keep it as a career and want to stick with it for a while. So
I try to teach people from the very beginning when they get in the trade, look, it doesn't take that much more effort to try to be the best,
Right.
to try to learn, to try to over-deliver. When I was in the union, I told people, look, all I want is 8 hours pay or 8 hours of work for 8 hours worth of pay.
Exactly.
All I want.
Yeah.
Don't want you to come in early and do things. I want you to stay late and do things, but I want, while you're here, to give me 8 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
And so many people instead are like, they're spending half that time trying to figure out how not to work.
Exactly.
How can I hide? How can I make this take longer?
Yep.
And it's like, man, if you would just try a little bit harder at the work itself, you could be phenomenal and make more money.
Yeah.
Because if I got somebody giving it their all and they want to learn and grow, I'm investing in them.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy.
And ours is okay.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, ours is the same. When I first came up in the trade, I was a superintendent, built big jobs, and just told all the younger guys, like, hey, man, you need to go make a name for yourself in the trade. Have other superintendents calling, hey, I want John out here on my job. He busts his butt. I know he's going to come out here and give me a hard 8 every day. And those are the guys that are going to get noticed. Those are the guys that are going to get raises. They're always going to have a job. While the other guys, when it's time for layoffs or whatever, they're going to be the first to get.
Yeah, isn't it tough? Because I have people that complain. Look, I've done residential, I've done commercial, I've done industrial, I've done service and new construction on both those. I've been non-union, union, and non-union again. So I've done all of it. It is what I tell people. I can talk about any of it. And I always laugh at these guys that they're like, oh, well, I tried the union. The union's no good. They couldn't keep me working, and I'd get laid off. I was always the first one to get laid off. And I'm like, dude, that has nothing to do with the union.
Yeah.
That has to do with who's the best person on the job.
Mm-hmm.
And if it ain't you, guess what? You're liable to get laid off pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Same with every
trade, open shop or union, either one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this video is sponsored by Leak Pro. Go check out leak-pro.com. I try to teach people getting into the union, but also people that are already in the union. Because look, from the time I started plumbing in 1980, I studied everything I could through friends and mentors and stuff to pass my plumbing exam.
Yep.
But man, from the time I got my license to 1997, I didn't learn anything. It's just, I'm a plumber. So I got in the trade to be a plumber. I'm a plumber now. Let me go plumb. And I did it all day, every day, and thought I was getting good at it. And I was getting better at it. But then when I got in the union, it's like, wait, I can learn med gas. I can learn residential fire protection systems. I can learn water supply protection specialist. I can get all these endorsements.
Mm-hmm.
Now I can do more. Now I can learn rainwater harvesting, so many different things. And then I started learning leadership and management. And it's like, hey, we want you to be a foreman. Hey, we want you to be a superintendent. And that's what a lot of people in the trades don't understand is if you'll keep learning, you can keep growing. It doesn't stop with just that license in your pocket.
Oh yeah, I learn something new every day. I mean, everybody thinks that once you pass your master's exam that you're all knowing.
You got it.
And yeah,
you bet.
But that's not true at all, man. I mean, I learn something new every day.
And the cool thing is there's new materials, equipment, tools, and technology every day.
Yep.
Something new's coming out.
Yep.
And the people that anybody right now who gets up in the mornings for 30 minutes to an hour, studies their industry. It can be reading online magazines. It can be just research, whatever. Those are the people that move up to be in the top 5 to 10% of the industry in any niche, in any industry. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
What do we do to young kids coming in to help them with that mindset, to help them learn, hey, look, I got in this just wanting to check, but you know what? I want to be good at this. How do we educate them and help them and push them?
I think that, college degrees were pushed, when I was younger. Yeah, they were pushed so hard on everyone.
Have you ever heard this line? If you don't go to college, you're never going to amount to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. We heard it every day.
Yeah. And there's certain people that aren't built for school, and they want to get out there and use their minds and work with their hands and solve problems and stuff. So I think that, just seeing them out there with other successful people, looking at other electricians that are successful, or maybe even you're working for someone else and you've got a superintendent that you look up to that's running the job and he's making, 6 figures and getting good bonuses and stuff like that. That kind of gives them, like, hey, we can make money doing this. It is possible. just like I was saying, I try to tell everybody, get out there, bust your butt, make a name for yourself. I mean, work your butt off and you'll be successful.
You bet. So have you read any books that have helped you?
I haven't read any books. I did go through an apprenticeship program for 4 years in Dallas.
IBEW?
Well, that's the
electric
union,
right?
So I wasn't union.
Okay.
It's the IEC, the Independent Electrical Contractors.
Okay.
And it's a 4-year program, 1 night a week. And it's basically just starting you from day one. You're going through learning all the bookwork, learning the code. And then at the end of that 4 years, you're ready to take your journeyman test. Or in theory, you should be ready to take your journeyman test. So 1 night a week.
Mm-hmm. So did your employers pay for that, or is that a school you found on your own?
The employer paid for half of it. So it was, I think the first year it's like $15 a week. Second year it goes up to like 20, then 22, and then 24. So it's not really a whole lot.
No, not bad at all.
And it was so every apprentice that we had was in this program. So it was a good selling point for our company to say, hey, everybody that we have that's not a journeyman is in school to learn the right way to do things and make sure they're doing stuff the right way.
I like that. So they have schools like that for some of the plumbing and mechanical CEF, Construction Education Foundation.
I've had a couple of guys go to CEF for electrical as well.
I think that PHCC is involved with that. I think TD is involved with it. Mm-hmm. Companies like that. That's pretty cool. So when you got in the trade and started learning and growing, what made you want to become really, really good?
Making money, really. I mean, that was it. I had a family, when I started, had my first kid at 23.
So I was 19. So
so I needed a career. I needed a way to support my family. I needed to work for a company that had insurance. So, I mean, that was my first thought. And then I'm looking, just like I was telling you, looking around at these other superintendents that are, 35, 40 years old, and they're making 6 figures a year running big construction projects. And I mean, I looked up to them. I mean, they had their stuff together, always had the right material, tools, information for us to be productive. So that's kind of how I envisioned myself being as I moved up through the trade.
When you became a foreman or superintendent, what was it like leading other people? What did you have to learn anything new? Because there's some people that are amazing in the field. You make them a foreman, they're lost. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, that was kind of, they just kind of threw me out there. Here's a job. Here's the plans. Here's a set of plans. Let us know how many guys you need and when you need them. You've got so many different personalities. You've got, construction, there's all different types of people. There's good guys. There's guys that are sick 1 day a week that can live off of 4 days or 3 days. It was learning a lot of the personalities, learning, how to talk to different people, how to treat different people. Some people can, you can ask them nicely to do things and they're all for it. Other people need a little more push. But yeah, I think the main thing is just dealing with all the different personalities from all the different guys.
It's not easy.
Oh no, still not easy to this.
No, it isn't. Yeah, communication skills, personality styles. I've studied DISC in the past to learn, to do a DISC profile on people, then understand what motivates them, how do they think, how do they move. Yeah. There's a new one called PCM that's phenomenal. It's a process communication model. And when I first learned about it, it blew my mind. So I took the course, then I took the advanced course, and then I became a coach because it's like, look, I want to understand this because it was literally like you can learn how to communicate with people, and I call it in their language. Yep. If you speak Spanish and he speaks French and he speaks German and I'm talking English to y'all, nobody's getting it.
Exactly.
But if I learn to speak to each one of you in your language, in the way you see and hear and feel, then it's like, okay, now we can communicate together. This is pretty good. But I had to want to learn to do that.
Right.
And, that's one of the biggest things is the different personalities and how to handle every one of them. Because I've had as many as 110 men on my crew at one time. Wow. And that's hard to do. And, and now you're like, okay, now I've got 6 or 8 foremen to help me with this many. Now there's not as many for me to deal with, but I still made it a point to talk to every man every day. Yep. How's it going? Y'all doing okay? Just walking through.
Oh, yeah.
But to get a good foreman under you, too, is a good thing. And sometimes they're hard to find because just because somebody's amazing in the field doesn't mean they're going to be a good foreman or superintendent.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you try to do to teach them, to educate them, to help them lead the crews a little bit better?
One of my old bosses used to say IMT, making sure they have information, material, and tools.
You bet. Every day.
And that's something that if you have all this information for the guys, then they're going to be more successful. So being a foreman, and this is your job to have all this information for them to where they can be successful.
And get it before they need it.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't do a whole lot of huge jobs. We've got several foremen. A couple of them run service vans. We still do commercial. So we've got a couple of commercial foremen, but it's understanding that you have to produce every day. You have to go out and make money every day for the company because the company's, that's why we're paying you.
You bet.
So understanding the production side is a big deal for foremen. We're not just here to hang out. We're here to work and get a job done. So.
No, I like that because you said that when you first got into it, you went to work at this company to hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of people, that's what they think.
Oh, yeah.
Man, this is where my friends are during the day. I can go work with them.
Yeah.
Oh, we can hang out and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can, but we also have a job to do.
Yeah.
How many people do you interview a year?
I would say probably 20 to 30. We kind of stay around the biggest we've ever been is 20 guys. That was back in 2019. And it was hard for me to find like a right-hand guy to help me manage it. So, after COVID, we kind of dropped down to 10 guys. And then that's kind of where that's our sweet spot where we want to, that's where we want to stay. A lot of our guys come from referrals or people that I've worked with in the past. A lot of our guys have been with us for years. So try to hang on to the good ones when you get them.
It's nice to build that culture that people want to stay there.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
So as you started growing your company, did you start out by yourself and running calls that way? Or how did you start out? Or did you start out with people?
No, I started by myself. So I worked for a large company in Dallas, finished up a job for them. Typically, when you finish up a job, they've got another set of plans for you. Hey, you start looking at these, doing your shop drawings. Well, they didn't really have anything for me to go do right at the time. So I had a big house, a remodel that I was doing on a house in Dallas on my own. So I just kind of went off and started doing my own thing, I'm still working for this other company, but they knew I had a business on the side. So like 2 weeks later, my boss, our general superintendent called and was like, hey man, what have you been doing?
Ready for you.
Yeah.
Where you been? We ain't seen you around the office.
I've been doing electrical work. And he's like, for who? Petrie or NTX? I told him NTX. And then kind of at that point is when I decided to, this would be a good time for me to break away. Had a little money saved up.
So he already knew about NTX then?
Yeah. Okay. I had a meeting with the owner of the company and just told him, hey, I do residential. I got my master's license, contractor's license to do like panel changes and stuff like that I'm going to need inspections for. So we kind of had an agreement, but set up a meeting with the owner and just basically told him, hey man, I want to give it a shot and go out on my own. And he's a real good dude, gave me a lot of good advice. And, I kind of run my company the same way that he runs his. So.
It's funny how we learn to do certain parts of the job or to run companies from people that we've worked with.
Oh, yeah.
People that we've worked for, people that we've watched. The good thing is, I've learned a lot from companies that I would never work for again. Just like, I'm not doing it that way.
Yeah.
Did you ever work for any bad companies where you're like, man?
The first couple that I worked for, it just wasn't super organized.
And not that they're a bad company.
No,
they weren't doing things right.
Right. But yeah, just not super organized. A lot of the foremen they weren't there to push the job. They weren't there to push the guys to get work done. It was more like, they're there to hang out. And at the end of the day, you're not making money, then your company's not making money. And eventually we're not going to have a job. So.
It's funny because there's superintendents like that too, that they go out on the job to run it and they're like, look, no, we're best friends. We're good.
Oh yeah.
Let's hang out.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the last big union jobs I did before I went to work as director of operations at a company. I was running a big job and we had a labor projection meeting. And I was projecting that job, and this is a multi-million-dollar job, and I was projecting it to make 22 to 24% profit. And it's from the pre-work. It's getting in. Where can I save money?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I invented a tool, had it built to where we could move 40-foot pieces of 20-inch pipe with a SkyTrack instead of on dollies where we thought we were going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Saved thousands and thousands of hours. And I'm like, man, just bank them. Don't give them back yet.
Oh, yeah.
So when it came time for projection, I'm projecting 22 to 24% profit. And I remember the last projection meeting I was in before I left, and I already knew they were bringing in another superintendent. They had some different ideas, and I was arguing with the union at the time. So it was like, okay, this is going to be my last meeting. And the owner of the company asked me, he said, Roger, he said, I want to ask you this. He said, is there anything that we do that messes up this profit margin? I said, yeah, you pull me out and get the wrong man on the job.
100%.
Because I already knew it was coming, and the look on everybody's face was like, how does he know that?
Yeah.
And within a week, I was gone, and they thought I'd hang around and onboard him and train him and all that. And I'm like, y'all have fun.
No.
I'm out of here. Because they did it like a snake.
Yeah.
And literally, I took a week off,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept calling, like, man, I wish you'd come back and onboard this guy. It's like, no, y'all are good.
Yeah.
Y'all picked your horse right at hard. And literally within about a year and a half, I got a call from one of the people that was like, dude, this job lost so much money.
That's crazy how it goes from...
It's like, well, look who ran it here at the end.
Yeah.
And they're like, it went downhill the moment you walked out.
Yep.
And he wanted to show up and be their friend. Hey, man, we're going to hang out. I'm moving up in the union. I'm going to be a president one day.
Yeah.
Dude, you get anything you want, just talk to me. And it's like, man, that ain't how you run jobs.
Yeah. It doesn't benefit you in the long run on the bottom line there.
No, it's tough to do. What was the hardest thing for you to learn when you started your own business full time? When you walked out and said, okay, I'm doing this. I'm all in. This is all I'm doing. There's no backup plan. What'd you have to learn to do it right?
I would say the hardest thing for me was estimating. I never made it. I was always a superintendent. I never made it into the office to be a project manager, estimator. So that side of the business was tougher for me to learn. And I learned by
mistakes,
underpricing jobs, going out. And I'm like, man, we've been on this job for a week and I priced it for 3 days. And now I'm paying $1,000 out of my own pocket to finish it. That was a big thing. And just making sure I had enough work coming in to support, because that was my only form of income, and I've got 4 kids when I started the business. So it was hard for me to just quit a full-time job where my check's in the bank every Friday.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. And
gas card, phone, computer, vehicle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was tough, but I just made it to where like I can't fail. My family needs me and I've got to make this work. So I worked 7 days a week for years and years. And if I have to today, I still go out. I get in the field with the guys. I won't ask them to do anything that I won't do. Mm-hmm. So, it's just knowing that you can't fail, I guess.
Do you do anything unique? And what I mean by that is, when I was running Texas Green Plumbing, one of my best friends who had started his company in the 80s, I went by and talked to him and said, man, look, I'm going to start my own business. He said, good for you. Yeah. He doesn't look at it as competition.
Yeah, yeah.
What can I do to help you?
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of like the 2 guys you started with.
Yep.
Me and him, man, he got me into plumbing. So I went by and talked to him. I said, man, what advice would you give me? He said, number one, never work for realtors. Real estate agents are a pain in the butt. He says that they're demanding, they're picky, they want you right then.
Oh, yeah.
Everything about it. And I'm like, okay, I can work with them. I'll charge more.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was going to be priced more than him. I already knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'll find a way to work with them. I can make more money there. And the other thing is, he said, find somebody good to do your slab leaks and leak detection and stuff like that. Because there's some good people out there and there's some bad people out there.
Yeah.
And I decided that's something I want to learn to do myself. So we started specializing in slab leaks and leak detection. We started in specializing in sewer water tests for people buying houses.
Okay.
So built a great relationship with the real estate agents.
Nice.
And then when we really got going good, we started specializing in whole house water filtration systems. A lot of things that most other companies aren't doing. Do you do anything that most electrical companies don't do or specialize in or anything like that?
Not really. I mean, we've done a lot of, just trying to keep up with the times, moving into the electric vehicle charging,
smart houses.
Smart houses.
Are you into solar or panels or anything like that?
We're not into solar. I've got a buddy that has a solar business, so anything we get or referrals, I kind of send his way. But yeah, I mean, just trying to stay up with the times, man, and seeing what people are going to be needing over the next couple of years and trying to stick with that.
So if you were starting a company today from the ground up, just brand new, you've got a job with somebody else, because I kind of did the same thing. I had my own job as director of operations. I had gone to work for this company, and even when I came in and interviewed, sat down, talked to the guy that was on it, it was slowly pulling himself out of the business, and sat down and interviewed with him. And I told him, I said, look, my plan, just so you know, is within 5 years, I'm running my own company. I want to do residential service, so it doesn't compete with y'all at all.
Yep.
Y'all are strictly commercial. So I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And I told him, look, I want to specialize in certain things. I want to do certain things. I want to be different. I don't want to be like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'll back you right now. Let's do it. We'll go into business together. And I'm like, I don't want to go into business with anybody.
Same. Yeah.
So, I'll take this job with you. I'll grow you, but on the sides, here's what I'm going to do. And he's like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
We kind of did the same thing. I had insurance. I was getting permits. I had everything is set up just like I'm supposed to be set up.
Yeah.
Had my RMP. Man, we were legit.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't my full-time gig. It's like, I'll do this whenever. It's no big deal.
Oh, yeah.
What would you tell someone that is in the field right now that, of course, they look at these big jobs they're doing, they're thinking, man, I'm making this company a ton of money, which is what they all think.
Yeah.
It's really not that much they're making them.
Yeah.
I remember one of the vice presidents called me into his office one day. We were talking. He said, you're one of 5 people that I got that can run $20 million projects. He said that, I trust doing it. He says, so that's a good thing. So I knew that I was doing good.
Yeah.
And I knew I was making the money because of the profit, the projection meetings that we did all the time. I knew what kind of numbers the jobs were bringing in. If you were talking to someone just starting out today, that they're at a company, that they're working at one of the big commercial companies or residential service companies, whatever, and they're like, I want to open my own business. What advice would you give them?
Just start small. Don't try to go after, with the bigger jobs, you can make a lot of money. You can also lose a lot of money. So just, start small. Build up, a good client base, and take care of your customers and treat them the right way, and should just automatically fall into place. But
it should. It doesn't always.
No, but taking care of your customers is a big thing. Just doing the right thing by everybody, and yeah, you should be successful.
Something you said, and you said it earlier, I'm on a job. I bid for 3 days, this 5. I'm taking $1,000 out of my pocket or whatever to pay to get this job done or whatever. And it made me think of something that my buddy also told me. He said, never take on a job so big that if you lost all that money, it wouldn't put you out of business or hurt you or anything like that, because it can happen.
Yeah.
And I thought, how can you lose, 30 grand, 40 grand, whatever it is? I've had a customer that flips homes literally had me come out and do a $10,000 job. Waited till we were done. I'm going to a restaurant to meet them, thinking I'm going to collect my money.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, look, I'm just going to tell you, we can't pay you. Like, what do you mean?
Why'd you hire me?
You can't pay me. So, well, we're going to end up keeping this house. We're not going to flip it. And we're just not going to pay you. I'm like, well, I might have to sue you. I might have to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, there are really people out there like that. What's the most money you've ever lost on a job?
So I am actually in a lawsuit right now for $80,000 with built a bar club in here in Collin County, and it was like a $200,000 electrical project. we got paid 120 of it. And then the last, we'd get our draw every month. So like for the last 2 or 3 months, this guy's leasing the space from the developer. So he's like, hey, I'm waiting on my tenant improvement check. And it got to the point at the end of the job, I'm like, hey, I'm just checking on payments. I've got material that I owe money for. And he's just like, hey man, I don't have the money to pay you. Like, well, what do you mean? I did the work. I deserve my check. He's like, so what do we do from here? I was like, well, I'm going to call my attorney and we're going to, file a lawsuit and go through that. So yeah, finished the job last April. I've spent $12,000 on attorney's fees. So yeah, we're up to a little over $80,000 and just found out 2 weeks ago that they're going to end up shutting down the restaurant, the bar, because it's not doing well. So, I mean, I shouldn't have taken it. I've had buddies, that are like, don't do restaurants. And, I'm like, man, this is a referral from a friend. One of their guys that does all their IT stuff was like, hey, my next door neighbor is starting this club and he needs an electrician. Went and met with the guy. I mean, everything seemed really, really cool. Had, drawings, seemed like a really good concept.
Wow. And
then just slowly towards the end, he just quit paying people. I found out from my attorney that he didn't pay. It was an HVAC / plumbing.
Yep.
Didn't pay them. Didn't pay his drywall, tile, paint. So but if he files bankruptcy, then honestly, I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah. The $10,000 like that is just the one that was the hardest because it was like, hey, I'm just not going to pay you. Do whatever you have to. And I'm like, how do y'all flip houses? I used to call them like fast homes or fast cash or something like that, FASTT. But I remember I started, and I'll tell you that their last name's Duval. They'll never work with them. They'd call me out to do houses, and it's a husband and wife team. So one will tell you one thing, the other will tell you another thing, and then it's just like, man, y'all are getting kind of shady here towards the end. And then when they did that, I'm like, y'all are nuts.
Yeah,
that blows my mind because I could never intentionally say, look, I'm going to get you to do all this work for me, and then I'm not going to pay you. And they were doing it on purpose. Yeah. And I'm like you. I had all the materials. I had paid dig crews to come over and dig.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm paying them for all the labor. This is what they don't realize is they're really screwing you twice.
Yeah, you've already paid for this.
You're paying for all the materials for that job. You're paying for all the labor to get it done. Yep. You're just really trying to get your money back. And they're like, yeah, I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah. At least give me material and my cost.
At least cover my costs. I don't mind losing my time, my money, but cover what I've got invested. And they're like, yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah, I don't see
it's
how
like
people...
You're keeping this house?
Yeah. You don't see how people sleep at night when they just know that that's their intention.
You bet.
At the beginning of the job.
You bet. What's the best job you've ever done?
We did a job with Tommy at First Baptist. Huge remodel. That was probably 2016. And it was a $500,000 electrical project. So that was definitely the biggest. It was kind of hard for me to man because I was only 2 years into business. I ended up getting some guys from the company that I had come from and brought them over, paid them really well. And that was like a 2 year project.
Wow.
So that was nice. And it's cool to do, I live here in Wylie, so I like doing things locally. You're like, hey, we did this, did this. But that was probably the best, most profitable job we've done. We do a lot of x-ray rooms, CTs. We've gotten into that over the last 2 years. So last year we did a job, a MRI in Indiana. Didn't want to do it, had no intentions, gave them a price, thought that they were just going to be like, oh no, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But they were like, hey, when can you start? And so I was like, dang, how do I man this? Or how do I get? But we ended up making it happen. We had 2 guys go up there for probably 2 months. And we did it. It worked out. So that was a really good job as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to find something to where I don't want to take every job. I want to take, pick and choose what I get to do and not have to take every job to stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Pick some profitable jobs. Or we used to do the same thing with flippers. When we first started, it was like, oh, I need this $10,000 on this job. I need this $8,000 remodel. And just learning over the years, they're more trouble than what they're worth. It never works out the way you want it to. Oh, it's a 2-month job. Okay, 6 months later, you're taking that $10,000 and you're dividing it by 6 instead of 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out to where you don't even see the money that you made at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's normally not in there because it drug out for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I hate worse is when they hire somebody else. They took my price.
Oh, yeah.
And then they call back like 4 months later and say, hey, we got a problem over here. We need you to come fix. It's like, what do you mean come fix? Are y'all doing the job or not? Like, oh, we did it.
Yeah.
But now the plumbing's not working. It's like, well, who'd y'all have do it? It's like, well, it was a friend of a friend of a friend. And it's like,
yeah.
And I mean, I've gone in and ran cameras in. It's like, I don't even see what they did or how they did it. And I even had a lady call and she said, well, I'm doing a house right now and I wish you were available to look at it. I'm like, well, where is it? She's like, well, it's in Dallas. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, I had a plumber and he came in and did the rough end, but I'm not sure it's right. And I'm like, well, what makes you say that? And she said, because some of the other contractors are like, I don't know what your plumber's doing, but it doesn't look like plumbing we normally see.
Yeah.
So I go over there and look at it, and I'm like, this is not going to pass inspection. I'll tell you that right now. And we did. We shot a video. I'm trying to remember if I carried a videographer with me just in case. But I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, ma'am, I said, like, this right here, this isn't right. She says, how do you know? I said, well, we're in the kitchen. She said, yeah. I said, where's the drain stick out for the kitchen sink? And she looks, and she says, I'm not sure. I said, we'll see how there's one in the back going to the lavatory. There's not one over here for the kitchen sink. I said, and look under the floor, because it was a pyramid beam and the floor was open. I said, and look under the floor. I said, this is not piped right. All this is going to have to be redone. She's like, well, I've already paid him this much money. And I said, well,
of course. Yeah.
He's not doing anything right.
Yeah.
I said, I promise you, this will not pass inspection.
Mm-hmm.
I said, even if you paid the inspector off, it ain't going to work when you move in.
Yeah.
And it was rough. And it blew my mind that people are installing shoddy work. I kept asking the name of the company. She's like, well, he doesn't really have a name of a company. It's just him. And I'm like, well, I tell you, he doesn't have a plumbing license.
Yeah.
Because a real plumber, you're not going to know to put this in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody wants the best price.
Yeah.
It comes at a cost.
Yeah. Get what you pay for.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I used to have people tell me that. Matter of fact, I made a video one time that says, like, I'm not the cheapest plumber in town. Never wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be one of the best.
Yep.
But if you want it done by the cheapest plumber, reach out to me. I'll give you their name, but then I'm going to charge you double to come back and fix it.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to do stuff right. I've seen their work.
Yep.
How many electrical companies out there do things right every time or most of the time? Most of them? Or?
I would say the ones that I work, like the big company that I came from.
You bet.
Mostly, I mean, everybody's on the same page. You do things the right way. You're dealing with people's lives. I mean, if you do something wrong, I mean, there's consequences. There's a reason to do things the right way and not cut corners. Not only having to go back and fix it, you don't get paid the second time you go out there, but also, yeah, I mean, these are people's lives. Their kids are living in these houses, and if something happens, you miswire something and it catches on fire, then I mean, you could take somebody's life. So
I always worry about that. I mean, I bought this house that was built in 84 or something like that. Plumbing, I'm not too worried about. It's a septic system. So, you know what? It's stuff I've got to learn about because plumbers in Dallas normally don't work on septic systems.
Yeah, they have a separate septic company.
Completely different license, a whole 9 yards. So I'm learning a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
But electrical's one is like, man, because the people I bought the house from were an HVAC company. I can tell by looking at the HVAC system, they did stuff shady. And it scares the heck out of me.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, well, most HVAC people think they can fix electrical.
Yep.
Well, what if they were in the attic wiring stuff or twisting wires together or whatever? And it kind of makes you,
oh, yeah.
Okay. Every day I pull around the corner and I see the house. I'm like, good, it's still
We're in good shape.
Yeah, it's still here. So no, it's not that bad, but it does. It makes you wonder, how do you grow a company?
Treating people the right way, being on time. If you tell someone you're going to do something, then make sure you do it. There's been times where we'll go, if I go out and quote a job at your house and I miss something, then I'm not going to come back to you later and say, hey, my fault. I didn't see that. that's, that's on me.
We absorb it. I get it. Yeah.
And I mean, people appreciate just doing the right thing like that, because there's so many other companies that will take advantage of people. But yeah, just treating people the right way, treating your guys the right way, making sure they're taken care of. That way they want to come to work every day and work hard for you. We do a little bit of, little social media, Facebook. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's just word of mouth and people giving your name out because they trust you to do the right thing.
That's one of the most important things you can do. Take care of your customers.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned it earlier about the jobs you've lost money on. I used to tell my plumbers, look, you treat these people like it's your mother or your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of times that call back and say, man, look, I forgot to do this or I forgot this and we need to do this. It's like, you know what? Just do it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we're not going to make money. It's like, I'll understand that. Let's fix it, but let's not do this again.
Yeah.
And it's a tough way to grow a business, but I think it's the right way to say, look, we messed up. That's on us. Nobody else.
And people really do appreciate that. Like, we've gone back on several jobs to where, okay, we didn't do that, or we missed this on the quote. And it's like, no, we're not charging you for it. That's our fault. So hopefully learn on the next one and move on. So
what are you doing on social media?
I don't do any of it myself. So we just have an Instagram. We have a Facebook. My son, he kind of posts on them, but that's really all we do. Just posting pictures of jobs, updates on bigger jobs. I mean, just had our website redone not too long ago, updated some pictures and just kind of updated our information. But we don't do a whole lot of social media.
We should. It works.
Yeah.
Just don't tell you. I've heard it works pretty good.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Oh yeah. Well, my son's good at stuff like that. I'm not old, but I'm old school. When I go out.
Okay. This is old.
Yeah.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah. When I go out to a job, I go out with my daily planner and, a piece of paper, and
I used to have one of those.
Yeah. And people go out and with their iPad and they're like, okay, here's this and this. And I'm like writing it up and
drawing it up.
Exactly. I got my graph paper and I'm drawing it up, and I'm just kind of old school. That's how I learned, was pencil and paper. And I know we're heading into a different direction here. We need to get on board, but
yes, indeed.
Yeah, I try to push my son, because they're in that generation. He's 20 years old. I've got another 17-year-old, and they're all about the social media and stuff. So that's kind of,
it works.
Pushing them in that direction, so
good. It's a good way to grow a business.
Yeah,
it can.
I can see that.
To make that happen. So what are your favorite top jobs to do?
Mine, whenever I was coming up in the trade, I always liked building out electric rooms, like on commercial projects, where you've got 5 panels, you've got transfer switches, a couple of transformers, and, you're just laying all this stuff out on the ground, running your pipes underground and stepping everything up. And then, they pour the slab and get the walls up, and you're like, oh, wow, that turned out, it's in the right spot. That's nice.
Kind of neat when that works.
Yeah. So my favorite thing was, running large pipe, building out electric rooms. I mean, the switches and plugs, those are some
pretty simple stuff to do.
Yeah. So I like something that is a little bit more of a challenge, just because I've done so many. You can only do so many switches, plugs, fans, lights. But yeah, I mean, I like something a little more challenging, a little more brain involved.
Right now, Texas has a deal where you can learn plumbing in high school if you're enrolled at certain schools, and there's only about 70 in Texas right now that are set up like this. But the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners, TEA and TWC got together and came up with a syllabus, a curriculum, the whole 9 yards, to where you enroll in a high school, you go your freshman year, and then if you decide you want to be a plumber, your sophomore, junior, and senior year, you take plumbing. The day you graduate high school, if you've passed this class, now you're eligible to go take your tradesman exam, which basically starts you out at about $55,000 a year.
So is tradesman different than journeyman?
You can get your tradesman license in 2 years.
Okay.
It's strictly 1 and 2 family dwellings.
That's kind of
either a house or a duplex.
Yeah. We've got a
Wiring.
Yeah.
Right. They're getting ready to teach that in high schools. Electrical and HVAC. Almost the same type deal, if I'm not mistaken, after your sophomore, junior, and senior year of learning wiring, learning how to wire a house, whatever is involved in that. After they graduate, they can go take that test and get their, I guess, wiring license.
Yeah.
Do you see that being beneficial for hiring electricians in Texas?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I wish they would have started this 15, 20 years ago. There's kids in school that their parents went to college, so their parents are going to push them to go to college. There's other kids that their parents are in trades. Well, they see, my son sees me out here working in the field and stuff like that, and he's like, oh, I want to be like my dad. And I mean, there's times where we're kind of looked down upon. We built. I mean, you wouldn't have an office if we didn't build it for you.
World.
Yeah. So yeah, I want it to be to where the kids that don't want to go to college, that want to get out there and work with their hands, have some kind of career that they can look forward to. So yeah, I think teaching them throughout high school instead of teaching other subjects that they're never going to use.
You bet.
Teach them some life skills and stuff that's going to benefit them and their family, for the rest of their life.
When they started doing this with plumbing about 2 years ago, I thought this is amazing.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, don't know why they're not doing electrical and HVAC, but it was because the Texas State Board started working with Texas State Technical College. There's a lot of different reasons and ways that all this happened. But I think our new chairman of the board, Frank Denton, has been big behind this. Well, he worked over at TDLR for years.
Okay.
So it's like, hey, look, what we're doing over here, we can do there.
Yeah.
And Brian Francis, who used to be the executive director, he left for a little while. Now he's back. And I think that he's part behind this. Like, look, we can push this. But I think it's phenomenal now that, and I think more schools are starting to adopt this. Right now, there's 70 schools in Texas teaching plumbing through this program.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, even if we can get, say, 10 new kids from each school a year, 700 new plumbers a year.
Yeah.
Not a bad way to get them in the trades, especially if they're already getting a tradesman license. Now they can come out and make more money.
Right.
Than just a green apprentice.
Yeah. And instead of, my little brother went to college and he's 40 years old. He's still paying off student loans and doesn't use his degree for his job. So yeah, I mean, I think trades are definitely the way to go. So
there's 1 million unfilled trades jobs across the United States right now, today. Actually, it's more than that.
That's insane, yeah.
And like $1.7 trillion in unpaid student debt. You would think that if the college degree was really worth all that, they'd pay the loan back.
Yeah.
Not saying anything bad, but most of them aren't working in what they went to school for.
Correct, yeah.
And they let them put off those loans for so much. Well, now that $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 loans is now $100,000 to $200,000. Well, you ain't made a payment in 10 years, so it just keeps getting bigger.
Yep.
I love to see them doing stuff like this in high school. Me, man, I'm not sure I'd have taken it or not because I wanted to play football, but man, what a great opportunity.
Yeah.
If there'd have been something like that there, I'd have looked at it because I did woodworking. I did metalworking at Ocean Machine
wood shop. Yep.
Yeah. All that building an engine.
Yep.
Not that mine started, but we tore apart
it looked good.
Oh, you bet. Tore apart a little Briggs and Stratton engine and put it back together. The extra parts that they used too many putting it together the first time.
Those are extra.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they did all these parts for. I was able to put it together with money.
Saved you some money on this.
I know. See, they should have hired me as an engineer. Being a residential electrician, because I know you do some residential. What's the hardest thing you've ever seen? We'd get calls from people, hey, another plumbing company came out. Worst call I ever got one day, this lady, and she called my wife, who was running the company at the time, ex-wife, called her and said, I'm part of a home warranty company, which is scary to begin with. Said, I called the HVAC people to come out and look at my unit. And the guy came in and says, look, ma'am, I can't work on your unit right now. There's a gas leak up there. Since you're part of a home warranty, call the plumbing company, let them come out and fix it. And when they come out and fix it, then I can get in there. He says, but look, I smell gas in your attic. So she says, okay, thank you. She calls the plumbing company. So the plumbing company came out. The lady told him, look, I've got a leak up in the lady told him, I've got a leak up in the attic. He says, well, let me look at things outside and then I'll come in. Said he spent 5 minutes outside, came back, knocked on the door, said, look, you've got a leak underground. Turned off the gas to your house. It's going to be $10,000 to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Sign this piece of paper and we'll get started. And she's like, I'm not signing that. And he says, look, you got to sign this or I can't leave.
Yeah.
So, well, I don't know what you're going to do then because I'm not signing it.
Mm-hmm.
So when she called, she says, so I started cussing and I started praying and then I turned the computer on and y'all came up. So Julie said, look, well, we'll send somebody out there. And we send a guy out there. He finds 3 leaks in the attic, fixes them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no leak underground, no leak outside.
Yep.
Tested everything again. So this lady spends under $1,000. And it's like somebody, and we ended up doing a research on the name. It was somebody unlicensed that worked for a legitimate company, but he came out and they're like, they work on commission, all commission.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's horrible. So what is the worst thing you've seen from the electrical side?
Kind of similar. I'm honest with people. When I still go out and look at most of our jobs, residential or commercial. And I mean, I don't go out to get a one-time customer. I'm not going out to charge you as much money possible on the first visit. And then you never call me again, never refer me to your friends. But we get a lot of the bigger companies, their techs get paid a percentage. Yeah. So their techs are going out and trying to upsell you on everything. You need a surge protector. You need this, you need this. Well, a lot of these houses are grandfathered in when at the time of construction, none of this stuff was required. Yes, if you have the money to upgrade some of it, great, but don't go out and scare people into thinking that their house is going to burn down so you can sell a panel change. I mean, I tell people all the time, they're like, hey, can you look at my panel? I had so-and-so come out and they quoted me $15,000. I'm more realistic and I mean, I have a heart, which is good and bad.
Sometimes it's good for the customers and bad for you.
Exactly.
But here's what it is.
But I can sleep at night. Yeah. So, I'll go out and shoot them straight. Like, man, I'm not, this is my company. I get the percentages, all 100% of it's mine. I'm not out here trying to upsell you a bunch of stuff. If I see something that needs to be done or could be done at a later date, I'll make a note of it. Safety stuff comes first, but there are a lot of scare tactics for electrical people going out. I mean, panel changes, we can do them in a day, make really good money on them. But if it's not, a fire hazard or immediate danger, then yeah, well, I'm kind of honest with people. Yeah.
What's the best day you've ever had as a residential electrician?
I would say
the greatest job, something made you feel amazing, taking care of a customer, anything at all like that.
I mean, here recently we've had a lot, had some elderly people, we had the storms roll through not too long ago, really bad in Richardson. So when I can go out and, someone's out here quoting them $20,000 worth of work and we can go get it done for, and save this person 10 grand or $15,000, we're still making money. I mean, knowing that this 70-year-old lady's not having to try to come up with $20,000 on a fixed income. And I mean, that makes me feel good at the end of the day. So there's days where I go out, I still run service calls every now and then, but I'll go out and if it's a GFI that's tripped or a breaker that's tripped, yeah, other companies are going to charge you a $200 trip charge. There's times where
it's a trip charge because just all you got to do is trip it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't feel good about that. And yeah, I know I'm losing money sometimes, but I mean, those people are going to remember stuff like this. They're going to tell you their friends and their kids and it'll just keep, it's like a pipeline of work basically. So
I love that. Well, this has been fun. Chris, tell everybody again who you are, where you're located, what you do.
So Chris Lamm, NTX Electric, located here in Wylie. We do residential, commercial, new construction, remodel, basically a little bit of everything. We're just a small group of guys making a living and treating people the right way.
And you say residential and commercial. You also do service work too.
Service work. Yep.
So their fan doesn't work. Their lights don't work. Whatever it is.
Type of no job's too big or small. I mean, we do changing out GFIs. We do remodels. We do patio covers. We do. I mean, anything. If it has electricity going to it, then we'll do it.
Then you say patio covers. You wire them. Build them.
Right. Correct. Yes.
Just want to make sure when it's like, man, I'm leaving a patio cover on there while you're here. I didn't know you did.
No, we do that. Yeah, we wire the patio covers, outdoor kitchens, landscape lighting. We do tree lighting, all types of stuff. So
cool. If somebody's listening and they wanted to go to work for you, or first go back, where all do you work at? What's your area?
We work, I mean, mainly Collin County. We do have a lot. We work a lot for realtors. So we have a lot of our realtors are in Dallas. We travel a little bit, but I've got certain guys that want to travel that don't mind. We've been in San Antonio for the last 6 months. We'll end up being there till the end of the year.
You may have to take the N off your NTX.
Like a STX. But mainly we try to stay locally. I mean, the guys want to be home every day, spend time with their families. So yeah, mainly just Dallas Fort Worth area, and then a few guys will travel, but that's kind of by volunteer only.
Good for you. If somebody wanted to go to work for you, how do they get in touch with you? How do they find you?
You could look on our website. There's a link on there. You can send an email directly to me. Typically, I'll just ask for a resume, and we'll have an interview, sit down and talk about, what I'm looking for, what you're looking for. And then if it's a good fit, then we can go from there.
And what is your website?
www.ntxelectric.com.
Good deal. Chris, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
One last question. If you could go back to little Chris, the day he walks out of high school, the day he goes home and walks out that door for the first time to go get a job, to go to work, whatever it is, the day after you graduate, you get to talk to you as you're walking out the front door to go to work, to get a job, to go back to work, whatever it is. What advice would you give yourself based on what all you know now?
I would say just have integrity, never give up. And I mean, treating people, I'm just a big believer in treating people the right way, and it'll come back to you. So, I mean, that's really it. Yeah.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. Appreciate it.